The diplomatic dance, the observation deck of Station Harmony, offered a breathtaking view of Zerion Prime below, its 3 moons casting silver light across the planet's purple oceans. But none of the diplomats gathered in Conference Room 7 were looking at the scenery. The tension in the air was thick enough to cut with a plasma blade. Captain Sarah Chen adjusted her crisp blue uniform and smiled warmly at the assembled delegates. At 35, she had already earned a reputation as one of humanity's most effective diplomat soldiers, though many aliens found her dual role confusing. How could someone trained to kill also be trusted to make peace? "Gentlemen, ladies, and honored beings," Sarah began, her voice carrying the easy confidence that seemed to define all humans. "Shall we begin today's session on the Kepler Sector territorial agreements?" Ambassador Thrix of the Vortani Confederation shifted his massive scaled form in the specially designed chair. His yellow eyes, set in a head that resembled an ancient earth crocodile, fixed on Sarah with barely concealed disdain. The Vortani had ruled space for millennia before these chattering pink mammals had even discovered fire. "Captain Chen," Thrix's voice rumbled like distant thunder, "your species continues to amaze us with your casualness regarding serious matters. Perhaps we should discuss the 17 mining rights violations your colonists have committed in our territory." Sarah's smile never wavered. "Oh, those little misunderstandings. I brought snacks." She gestured to Dr. Alina Vasquez, a cheerful xenobiologist who was setting up a small buffet table. "Alina makes the most amazing sandwiches. Even packed some of those sulfur crystals your people love to munch on, Ambassador." General Krex of the Zephyrian Hive clicked his mandibles in what might have been amusement or irritation. His insectoid features made emotions difficult to read, but his forearms gestured dismissively. "Humans," he buzzed in his translated voice, "you treat everything like a social gathering. Do you not understand the gravity of this situation?" "Oh, we understand perfectly," Dr. Vasquez chimed in, passing around plates. "It's just that we found most problems are easier to solve when everyone's blood sugar is stable. Besides, I've been dying to try those honey cakes your people make, General. I hear they're fermented with actual Zephyrian royal jelly." The General's compound eyes reflected light as he considered the offering. Despite himself, he took one of the small cakes. "You humans are ... peculiar. Your delegates spend more time discussing food than territory." Sarah laughed, a sound that seemed to fill the room with warmth. "That's because hungry people make bad decisions. Look, we're all here because we want what's best for our people, right? The Kepler sector has enough resources for everyone. 17 mining sites sounds like a lot. But when you consider we've established over 200 colonies in neutral space, ... 237, Dr. Vasquez added helpfully, consulting her datapad while taking a bite of a sulfur crystal. These are actually quite good. Reminds me of salted licorice." Ambassador Thrix's tail lashed behind him, a sign of growing irritation. "This is exactly what we mean. You treat galactic politics like a joke. Your people spread across the galaxy like some kind of infection, chattering and joking and making friends with everyone. Is that ... bad?" Sarah asked, genuinely curious. "I mean, we've always found that being friendly makes things easier. Take the Andorian trade wars. We brought both sides together for a barbecue, and by the end of the night they were singing, drinking songs together. The Andorians are simple-minded." General Krex buzzed. "They are easily swayed by your ... charm. But there are those in the galaxy who see your expansion as a threat." Dr. Vasquez looked up from her tablet, where she'd been taking notes about Zephyrian dietary preferences. A threat, but we always ask permission first. Well, mostly. Okay, sometimes we ask for forgiveness instead, but we always make it right. The room fell silent for a moment. Sarah noticed the change in atmosphere immediately. Her smile remained, but something shifted in her posture. A subtle straightening that transformed her from casual diplomat to something else entirely. What kind of threat? She asked quietly. Ambassador Thrix leaned forward, his massive frame casting a shadow across the table. Your people multiply rapidly. You adapt to any environment. You make allies of everyone you meet, and those you cannot befriend, you seem to absorb into your culture. Some see this as dangerous enough to take action. Sarah's voice remained level, but Dr. Vasquez had stopped eating and was watching her captain carefully. General Crex's forearms moved in a complex gesture that indicated uncertainty among his people. There have been ... incidents. Ships going missing in sectors where human colonies are expanding. Some believe it is merely the hazards of deep space exploration, and others, Sarah prompted, others suggest that not all species welcome human expansion with open arms, Thrix admitted. The galaxy was peaceful before your people reached the stars. Dr. Vasquez set down her sulfur crystal with a sharp click. Peaceful. The Vortanasophorian War lasted 3 centuries. The Androian trade. Wars displaced millions. The Rigel Consortium enslaved entire worlds. Those were matters between established civilizations, General Crex replied. Internal affairs. But when humans get involved, suddenly it's different, Sarah asked. Her smile had faded completely now, and both alien diplomats noticed the change. The door to the conference room chimed, and Lieutenant Commander James Park entered. Sarah's communications officer was young, perhaps 25, with the kind of eager expression that suggested he always had something interesting to share. Captain, sorry to interrupt, but we've received an urgent message from Fleet Command. He glanced at the alien delegates. Should I? Go ahead, James. We're all friends here. Sarah's voice carried a note that made Dr. Vasquez look up sharply. Ma'am, we've lost contact with the colonies in the Outer Rim. 17 settlements, including New Beijing and Terra Nova. Last communication indicated they were under attack by unknown vessels. The room went completely silent. Sarah stood slowly, her movements controlled and precise. Casualties, unknown, ma'am. The attacks happened simultaneously across a 50 light-year radius. Whoever did this had to coordinate perfectly. Dr. Vasquez was gathering her equipment with swift, efficient movements. Gone was the cheerful scientist, replaced by someone who clearly had military training. Captain, should I prep the determination for departure? Not yet. Sarah turned to the alien delegates, who were watching this transformation with growing unease. Gentlemen, it seems our discussion about territorial disputes has become rather academic. Ambassador Thrix's voice was cautious. Captain Chen, you cannot assume that these attacks are related to our concerns about human expansion, can't I? Sarah's smile returned, but it was different now, colder. 17 colonies attacked simultaneously in a pattern that suggests coordination and planning. Someone wanted to send a message. General Crex's mandibles clicked rapidly. What will your people do? Sarah was quiet for a long moment, studying both aliens. When she spoke, her voice was calm, almost conversational. You know, in all our previous meetings you've both commented on how much humans talk. How we joke and laugh and seem to treat everything casually. Yes, Thrix admitted, it is ... notable. We talk because we like talking, Sarah continued. We joke because humor makes difficult situations bearable. We're casual because getting too serious too quickly tends to escalate problems. She moved to the observation window, looking out at the stars. But there's something you should understand about humans. What is that? General Krex asked. Sarah didn't turn round. When we stop talking, when we stop joking, when we stop being casual ... She paused, her reflection visible in the transperistyle. That's when you should start worrying. Dr. Vasquez had finished packing and was standing at attention by the door. Lieutenant Commander Park was waiting for orders, his earlier eagerness replaced by focused professionalism. Captain, Ambassador Thrix ventured, surely you do not intend to respond with violence. Diplomatic solutions were what we were attempting here today, Sarah interrupted, finally turning back to face them. But diplomacy requires good faith from all parties. If someone decided to attack human civilians while we were sitting here, discussing mining rights, ... double quotes, she shrugged. Well, that changes things. The transformation was complete now. Gone was the smiling, casual diplomat who had offered snacks and made small talk. In her place stood a military officer with cold eyes, and the kind of presence that suggested she'd seen combat and emerged victorious. Asterisk. What message should I send to Fleet Command? Lieutenant Commander Park asked. Sarah was quiet for several seconds. When she spoke, her voice was barely above a whisper. Tell them to prepare the fleet. Tell them to recall all diplomatic missions. Tell them ... She paused, looking at both alien delegates. Tell them the talking is over. Ambassador Thrix and General Krex exchanged glances. In all their years of dealing with humans, they had never seen this side of them. The cheerful, chattering species that seemed to make friends with everyone had vanished, replaced by something harder and far more dangerous. Captain Chen, General Krex tried. Perhaps we should continue our discussions. No, Sarah's voice cut through the air like a blade. Our discussion is finished. Dr. Vasquez, Lieutenant Commander Park, we're leaving. As the humans moved toward the door, Dr. Vasquez turned back to the alien delegates. Her smile was gone, replaced by an expression of cold professionalism. Thank you for the sulfur crystals, Ambassador Thrix. They were quite good. General Krex, I hope we can share more cultural exchanges in the future. She paused at the door. Assuming there is a future. The door closed behind them with a soft hiss, leaving the two alien diplomats alone in the conference room. The cheerful atmosphere that had filled the space just minutes before was gone, replaced by an oppressive silence. They changed, General Krex observed, his translated voice unusually quiet. Ambassador Thrix nodded slowly, in seconds. One moment they were the same humans we have always known, chattering, joking, casual. The next, ... double quotes, he trailed off. The next, they became something else entirely. General Krex rose from his chair, his forearms moving in agitated patterns. Did you see their eyes? How they moved? The way they communicated without words. Military precision, Thrix agreed, as if the diplomatic masks had been removed to reveal what lay underneath. He moved to the observation window where Sarah had stood. I begin to think we may have misunderstood the nature of humanity. In the distance, they could see the human diplomatic vessel Determination beginning to move away from the station. Its running lights cast brief shadows across the hull. But there was no communication chatter, No casual transmissions to the station control. The humans had gone silent. General, Ambassador Thrix said quietly, "I suggest we contact our respective governments. If the humans are truly ending their diplomatic efforts, ... Yes, General Krex agreed. The galaxy may be about to see what humans are really capable of when they stop talking and start acting." As they watched, the determination engaged its jump drive and vanished into hyperspace, leaving only empty stars behind. The silence was deafening. The silent storm admiral, Marcus Stone, stood on the bridge of the battleship Retribution, watching the tactical display with eyes that had seen too many wars. At 58, he was old enough to remember when humanity's reach barely extended beyond their own solar system. Now, 17 human colonies had gone dark in a single coordinated attack, and the galaxy was about to learn what happened when you awakened a sleeping giant. "Admiral," reported Commander Lisa Park, his tactical officer and younger sister to the lieutenant commander who had served under Captain Chen. "All fleet elements have reported ready status. 237 vessels across 4 battle groups. Communication status." Stone's voice was quiet, controlled. "All diplomatic channels have been closed per Fleet Command directive. No external communications authorized without your direct approval." The bridge of the Retribution was eerily quiet. Gone was the usual chatter of status reports, casual conversation, and the dozens of small interactions that normally filled a human warship. Every officer and crew member moved with silent efficiency, their faces set in expressions of cold determination. "Sir," announced Lieutenant Sarah Kim from the sensor station, "we're receiving a transmission from Station Harmony. Ambassador Thrix of the Vortani Confederation is requesting to speak with you." Admiral Stone considered this for a moment. "Put it through." The main screen flickered to life, showing the scaled features of Ambassador Thrix. The alien diplomat looked noticeably uncomfortable, his usual composed demeanor cracked with what might have been worry. "Admiral Stone," Thrix began, "I felt it necessary to contact you directly regarding the recent ... incidents involving human colonies." Stone said nothing, simply watching the screen with steady eyes. Thrix shifted uncomfortably. "The Vortani Confederation wishes to express our sympathy for your losses and to assure you that we had no involvement in these attacks." Still, Stone remained silent. "Admiral, surely you understand that jumping to conclusions without proper investigation could lead to unfortunate consequences for galactic stability. Are you finished?" Stone's voice was flat, emotionless. Yes, but I hoped we might discuss." "There is nothing to discuss." Stone gestured to Lieutenant Kim, who cut the transmission. "Commander." Park stepped closer to her brother-in-law. "Sir, General Krex of the Zephyrian Hive is also requesting communication denied. All diplomatic communications are suspended until further notice." Throughout the bridge, the crew continued their work in perfect silence. It was unnerving how quickly the transformation had occurred. These were the same people who, just hours before, had been sharing jokes, talking about families back home, debating the merits of various entertainment programs. Now they moved like ghosts, speaking only when necessary and then only in clipped, professional tones. "Admiral," reported the navigation officer, "we've traced the attack patterns. Based on the timing and coordination required, the attacking force had to stage from the nebula sector. How many ships?" "Minimum of 40 heavy cruisers, sir, possibly more." Stone nodded slowly. "And our intelligence on who controls that sector?" "Commander." Parg consulted her tactical display. "The region is claimed by the Skarn Collective. but it's primarily used by mercenary groups and raiders. Perfect place to stage attacks and disappear. Not anymore. Stone turned to his communications officer. Signal the fleet. Silent running protocols are now in effect. No external communications, no identification transponders, no non-essential emissions. Sir, that violates about a dozen interstellar treaties. So did attacking our colonies. Stone's voice carried a finality that ended all discussion. Across the fleet, human vessels began implementing protocols that had been developed but never used in actual combat. Ships that had always announced their presence with standard transponder codes and communication channels suddenly became invisible ghosts moving through space. On Station Harmony, Ambassador Thrix paced nervously in his quarters while General Krex observed from a specially designed chair. They have gone completely silent, Thrix reported, checking his communication panel for the 100th time. No response to diplomatic overtures, no acknowledgement of standard space traffic control protocols. It is as if the entire human fleet has simply ... vanished. General Krex's compound eyes tracked across multiple data streams. My intelligence sources report similar findings. Human diplomatic missions throughout the galaxy have been recalled. Trade negotiations have been suspended. Cultural exchange programs have been terminated. But that makes no sense, Thrix protested. Humans are the most social species in the galaxy. They talk to everyone about everything. This silence is completely contrary to their nature. Perhaps, General Krex suggested quietly, we never truly understood their nature at all. The door chimed, and Captain Sarah Chen entered the room. Both aliens immediately noticed the change in her. Gone was the warm smile and casual demeanor. She wore her uniform with military precision, and her eyes held a coldness that neither had seen before. Gentlemen, she said without preamble, I've been instructed to inform you that all human diplomatic activities have been suspended indefinitely. Captain Chen, Thrix began. Surely this is an overreaction to what may have been isolated incidents. 17 colonies, Sarah interrupted. Simultaneous attacks across 50 light years. Over 100,000 civilians, including 30,000 children. Her voice remained level, but something in her tone made both aliens step back. Does that sound like isolated incidents to you? General Krex's mandibles clicked nervously. Captain, what do your people intend to do? Sarah was quiet for a long moment, studying both aliens. You know, throughout all our previous meetings, both of you have commented on how much humans talk, how we seem to treat everything as a social occasion. Yes, Thrix admitted cautiously. We talk because communication prevents misunderstandings. We socialize because relationships build trust. We joke because humor diffuses tension. Sarah moved to the observation window, looking out at the empty space where the human fleet had been. But when talking fails, when relationships are betrayed, when the situation moves beyond humor, ... what happens then? General Krex asked, though he seemed afraid of the answer. Sarah turned back to them, and for a moment, both aliens saw something in her eyes that made their blood run cold. Then, we stop talking and start acting. Captain Thrix ventured, violence is not always the answer. You're right, Sarah agreed. Sometimes the answer is overwhelming, coordinated. Systematic violence applied with surgical precision to eliminate threats to human civilians. She moved toward the door. The galaxy spent centuries in various states of warfare before humans reached the stars. We ended those wars through diplomacy and friendship. But if someone has decided that our peaceful approach makes us weak. She paused at the door, her hand on the control panel. They're about to learn why humans evolved as persistence hunters. After she left, the two aliens sat in uncomfortable silence for several minutes. General Thrix finally said, "I think we need to contact our governments immediately." Agreed, but what do we tell them? That we may have made a terrible mistake about the nature of humanity. In the Nebula sector, the Skarn raiding fleet was celebrating their successful attacks on the human colonies. Their leader, Warlord Zek, raised a cup of stolen human liquor and roared his approval to his assembled captains. "The soft humans will cry and complain to their governments," he declared, his scarred face twisted in a cruel grin. "They will send diplomats and negotiators, just as they always do. And we will ignore them and strike again." The other Skarn captains roared their approval. They had studied human responses to previous conflicts, always talking, always negotiating, always trying to find peaceful solutions. It made them predictable, and, more importantly, weak. "Warlord," reported his sensor operator, "I'm detecting incoming ships." "How many?" Zak asked, not particularly concerned. Merchant vessels sometimes stumbled into this region, providing additional opportunities. "For raids?" "I am not sure, sir. The sensors are having difficulty getting clear readings." Zak moved to the sensor station, his mood darkening. The display showed what appeared to be sensor ghosts, multiple contacts that appeared and disappeared, moving in patterns that seemed impossible. "What is this?" he growled. "Unknown, sir. The contacts appear to be using some form of stealth technology. They're jamming our sensors while somehow remaining partially visible." Across the Skarn fleet, similar reports were coming in. Ships that appeared on sensors one moment and vanished the next. Contacts that seemed to be in multiple places simultaneously. It was like being hunted by ghosts. "Warlord, his communications." Officer called out, "We're receiving a transmission." "From whom?" "Unknown, sir. The signal is coming from everywhere." The main screen flickered to life, showing the bridge of a human warship. Admiral Stone stood at the center, his expression cold and implacable. Behind him, the bridge crew worked in complete silence. Warlord Zak of the Skarn Collective, Stone's voice was quiet, barely above a whisper. "You are responsible for the deaths of over 100,000 human civilians." Zark recovered from his surprise and sneered at the screen. "Human, you have no power here. This is Skarn space, and you are outnumbered." Stone said nothing for several seconds, simply staring at the Skarn leader with eyes that held no warmth. No mercy, no trace of the diplomatic humanity the galaxy had come to know. "You attacked civilians," Stone continued, as if Zak had never spoken. "You killed children. You thought human compassion was weakness." "It is weakness," Zak roared. "Your people are soft. You talk and negotiate instead of fight." "We used to fight," Stone replied quietly. "Before we reached the stars, humans spent millennia perfecting the art of warfare. We learned to kill with such efficiency that we nearly destroyed ourselves. That's why we chose diplomacy instead." The screen flickered, and suddenly Zak could see tactical displays, showing his fleet surrounded by human vessels that had somehow appeared from nowhere. "But when diplomacy fails," Stone continued, "when peaceful people are murdered by those who mistake kindness for weakness, we remember why we were so good at warfare in the first place." Zak looked at his sensor displays and felt something he had never experienced before: fear. The human ships weren't just surrounding his fleet. They were perfectly positioned, every angle covered, every escape route blocked. It was like being in the center of a trap designed by a predator that had studied its prey for generations. "You have 30 seconds to surrender," Stone said. "Not for your sake, but because there might be prisoners from our colonies aboard your ships." "I will never surrender to the transmission cut off." For exactly 30 seconds, space was silent. Then the human fleet opened fire. What happened next would be studied in military academies for centuries. The Skarn fleet, which had seemed so formidable when attacking defenseless colonies, simply ceased to exist. Not destroyed in battle, not defeated in combat, they were systematically disassembled by a force that moved with surgical precision and inhuman coordination. Throughout the galaxy, alien observers watched the sensor readings with growing horror. The humans hadn't just won. They had demonstrated a level of military capability that no one had suspected they possessed. On Station Harmony, Ambassador Thrix and General Krex watched the tactical displays in stunned silence. They were not warriors when they reached the stars, Krex observed quietly. "No," Thrix agreed. They were something far more dangerous. They were warriors who had chosen to become diplomats. The Nebula sector was quiet now. The Skarn fleet was gone, their raiding bases eliminated, their threat to human colonies permanently ended. And in that silence, the galaxy began to understand a fundamental truth about humanity. When humans talked, laughed, and joked, they were choosing peace. When they went silent, they were choosing war. And given their history, their capabilities, and their capacity for both creation and destruction, the galaxy much preferred it when humans were talking. Admiral Stone stood on his bridge, watching the empty space where the Skarn fleet had been. Around him, his crew began to resume normal operations, but the silence lingered. "Sir," Commander Park said quietly, "we've recovered all surviving prisoners from the destroyed Skarn vessels. Medical teams are attending to them now." "Good." Stone turned to his communications officer. "Open a channel to Fleet Command. Inform them that the threat to our colonies has been eliminated." "Should I also reopen diplomatic channels, sir?" Stone considered this for a long moment. "Not yet. Let the galaxy think about what they've seen here. Sometimes silence speaks louder than words." Throughout human space, the message was clear. Humanity had tried peace, diplomacy, and friendship. They had talked, joked, and negotiated their way to solutions that benefited everyone. But when forced to choose between the safety of their people and the comfort of others, they had chosen their people. And they had done so with a silence that echoed across the galaxy, carrying a simple message. "We tried talking. That didn't work. Now we'll try something else." The galaxy listened to that silence and learned to fear it. Because in that quiet, they could hear the echoes of a species that had once been very, very good at war. And they remembered why they preferred it when the humans were talking. Asterisk.